Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and speak in front of you all. Today's topic is security and game development. But before that, I would like to quickly introduce myself. I'm Paavan Nanda, co-founder and CEO of WinZo Games. We are India's largest social gaming platform with over 75 million registered users. As you can see on the left-hand side, this is the home screen of our application. Before we dig deeper into the topic, let me just set some context here, right? Because as per today's presentation, we'll be basically covering four aspects of this discussion. The first one is going to be a quick overview of what the business background is, and literally sharing the framework or the boilerplate around which why it's really important for us from WinZo standpoint, and what has been our learnings with respect to dealing with security, hacking, fair play perspective, per se. Then we'll be discussing what are the different ways, forms, or nuances through which we have seen these kind of instances, at some points even breaches. Towards the middle of the discussion, we'll be covering some of the aspects, both from a technology as well as data standpoint, some of the measures that we have taken that have helped us provide one of the best, probably the most flawless experience, real money gaming experience that can be provided to the Indian audience. And then we can wrap up the discussion by a couple of recommendations that we have jotted down for you guys. So without any further ado, I'll just straight away dive into the presentation. This is a quick summary for those who are not aware of what we do at WinZo. So we are basically a social gaming platform. We partner with third-party game developers to get their games on our platform. And from a user standpoint, all they have to do is download our application and they can play any of those games in real-time multiplayer mode. Interestingly, there is a very large focus on commerce, and that also microtransaction-led commerce. So people essentially download our app, they load money, real money in their wallets, and then they can keep on playing these games by paying entry fee. And if they do well, they'll also win some kind of cash. For us as WinZo, we take a certain commission from all kinds of prize pools and entry fees that are collected during the gameplay activity. On the right-hand side, as you can see, this is the flow of the money, where users basically spend money, create a prize pool. Out of that prize pool, 90% of the prize pool is given back to the winners. The remaining 10% is shared between WinZo and our partner game developers. By the way, we work with more than 100 game developers, out of which about 60% of them are in India and 40% of them are international developers. Moving to the next slide to give you a sense of the scale that we are talking about, right? So it's a microtransaction-led model. So far, we have 75 million users. And these users do anywhere between 2.5 to 3 billion microtransactions on our application. When we say microtransactions, basically we are talking about an entry fee that's paid to play a game, which starts with as low as 2 rupees, right? Just to also give you a sense of the breadth or the complexity of the problem or the situation it had. We have 100 plus games which can be played across 5 different formats. The games that I'm talking about are also very, very different, right? From casual games like carom, chess, 8-ball pool, Candy Crush, to some of the mid-core games like, battle royale games. We also have some traditional RNG games like poker, rummy. We have, of course, daily fantasy sports and everything that comes in between. So each and every game brings its own different kind of a nuance. And these games are played across different formats, in different languages by 75 million plus users. So it's a really large ecosystem with billions of transactions that we are talking about that happen every month. And that's why security becomes super critical, right? Essentially because of these reasons. The first and the foremost, there is real monies involved, right? For all practical purposes, we are pretty much, you can say, can be equated to or analogous to a high frequency trading terminal, or in a layman words, you can assume us to be, let's say, a small bank which has 75 million bank accounts with money is lying into it. So because of involvement of real money, security becomes of paramount importance. Also, it is not just a vanilla experience like probably in a financial product, right? It is an extremely diverse, multilingual, multifaceted kind of an experience because we have 100 plus games, and each of these games can actually, be either hacked or can be cloned or can be, you can say, uh, taken advantage of in a different manner because the mechanisms, the skills required, or the kind of click stream that's required to sort of get better at these games is different, right? So you every time you need to, you add a new game, you add a new format, you need to ensure that the security part of that particular game or the fair gameplay part of that particular game is also critical, and that also getting married to the real money aspect. For example, if let's say a non-real money Candy Crush, I mean, at the end of the day, even if somebody hacks it, there is only so much that that person will gain out of it, right? But on our platform where there are people putting in real monies and they're playing different games, it's very, very critical to not just ensure that their monies are safe, but also ensure that the opponents are not using any unfair means. So there is a very high importance on the fair gameplay part of it with regard to this platform that we're talking about. So this is the lay of the land under which security and a similar kind of, I would say, uh, weaknesses can be really important. In fact, we have a dedicated team that sort of looks at it. It's something that forms a part of the nucleus of each and every product designing, each and every sprint, each and every dev cycle that we're talking about. So let's get into some of the examples of the kind of breaches that we have either heard of, we have seen people trying to attempt, or some of them we have also witnessed, right? And eventually we had to plug them. Uh, so just to sort of, also share this journey that happens, a user essentially creates a new account from their mobile number. Mobile number is considered to be an independent Reg ID. So they create their own account, and then we give some kind of a free money for a user to play. This free money is given to each and every new user account. A user can play with this to try out what kind of games are there. And if that person also wins some money out of this, they can take this money back into their bank account. So it's very important that every time a new account is being made, that account is actually being of a genuine legit user, right? But now what happens at some cases is a same person, or a bunch of people will try to clone and create multiple accounts by either procuring junk mobile numbers or by cloning the application or bypassing the Android settings to really identify that it's, the same device which is having multiple apps in it. So this is one kind of, issues that we're facing or we've faced in the past. Another thing to do with that is you also give some kind of a referral bonus, right? So we run real money referral programs. What happens is, of course, people can try to find out or achieve multiple installs through unfair means. Let's say the kind of scheme that we run is probably, let's say, if you get a user through your referral link, you will get 10 rupees for every new referral. But what people do is they will keep on creating multiple accounts. Some of these accounts are also, by the way, created through scripting, right? You will see 100 accounts getting created in a couple of seconds. We have also seen some of those kind of instances, and people trying to really game the system or trying to earn those bonuses that they eventually end up withdrawing. So that is one part of, I would say, or the segment of issues that we are aware of. The other kind of issues would be with respect to the gameplays. Like I mentioned, fair gameplay is again super critical. We need to ensure that every time a person is playing a game with others, none of them have any kind of an advantage over anybody else, right? And now let's talk about, for example, a game like 8-ball pool or carom, right? Which really tests a person's aim. Now what people can do is they can actually have uh, overlay apps. For example, there is an app that will give you a very a nice overlay on top of your application, and then that will improve your overall ability to, let's say, make aims, or if you want to pot a puck, it's going to get much easier to do that. These are the kind of ways in which people try to get better at games like pool or carom. There's another game which really tests how fast your reflexes are, or let's say how many clicks you can make, how quickly you can, how quickly you can hit a particular button. So what people will do is, we have seen instances where there are these applications, uh, that are like auto clickers. So people can just install those auto clickers, and then they can put those auto clickers on top of your application. And just when that particular instance arrives, you just have to activate that auto clicker, and that auto clicker can generate probably 10,000 clicks in a matter of 5 seconds, which is humanly not possible, right? And then there can be a game, let's say, like fruit samurai. So in fruit samurai or fruit ninja, where every time I'm cutting a fruit, there's a certain kind of a score that is coming in, right? 5, 10, those kind of score packets. And the way we work out is usually we add all these score packets, and the final score is announced. But some of the smarter folks, or I would rather say folks who try to uh, game the system, they will tweak any particular score packet and send a very large number. And most of this is done through front end, but send a very large number or score in that particular packet that can really increase the overall end score. So these are some of the instances that are very prevalent in the gaming or RNG universe. Some of the other instances could also be, let's say, around collusion. For example, there are 5 people sitting on the same table playing a game of hand of poker, and out of them, let's say 4 people are friends. So ideally, they should not be playing together because they can share information about their hand or their cards among each other, and can literally get some advantage over the 5th person who's playing individually on that table, right? On table games, we've also seen stuff like chip dumping. For example, you know, I sign up into an account, I get 100 rupees as bonus credit, and then I play with my friend, find out, my friend playing on a certain table. I reach that table and I dump that 100 rupees into my friend's account, then that person can withdraw, right? So those kind of bonus dumping, chip dumping is something which also hurts the company, and is something that we are always on the lookout for. So net, there is a very large barrage of problems that that you know that needs to be encountered when you are running an RNG platform where there are billions of transactions happening. There are several hundred games, and there are different kind of users, and there's only so much that you can do, right? Because at the end of the day, you can be very, very stringent, but then you will also experience certain kind of funnel drops. So there is always a trade-off between what kind of checks you should measure, that you should put that really keeps the the bad apples out of the gate, but also does not hamper the experience of your loyal users. Uh, Moving on to some of the things that we do at our end uh, to encounter these things. Let's talk about, so we've divided our monitoring and controls into 3 aspects, right? The first one is on the front end side of it. So if you talk about uh, Android, because 99% of our traffic comes from Android, and Android, as you all know, is an open source. Some of the things that we do on for Android are we work very closely with, firstly, your Android APK should be totally locked. Your app should be sealed. In fact, we use several tools. Uh, there are several third-party tools available in the market that have that basically specializes in locking your APK. So we use some of those third-party services as well. Over and above that, there are many checks and the permissions that we take to ensure that there is, the person who's coming in is actually safe. For example, we don't allow rooted devices to launch WinZo. We don't allow any kind of an overlay application while a person is playing on WinZo. That person cannot run any app on the overlay. That person cannot run a certain kind of applications in the background as well. Our code is, of course, obfuscated, completely obfuscated. And there is also a very strong, I would say, mechanism to store those keys. That is, again, available only to a very, very handful set of people, even within the company. So these are some of the things we do on the front end side of it. Interestingly, and more importantly, what we also try to do, because Android is open-end, we try to keep as much logic as possible in the backend, right? So majority of your calculations, logics should be in backend. And if not, there should be definitely a validation or a ledger system through which you can double check the values that are coming in from the front end by having another set of values being captured on the backend. For example, in case of score packets, right? So if a person is or the device is sending certain total overall score, but that score is actually very, very different from the sum of score packets that the backend receives, then there is definitely a red flag there, right? There's like, of course, when it comes to backend, API endpoints have to be extremely encrypted. There is no doubt about that. I think that is 101. Not just that, but also you need to take enough measures to ensure that there is no MIM or man in the middle attack there. There are, there are again several tools out there. Of course, our entire infra is on AWS, but then there are over and above that enough measures to ensure that overall your system is safe, your system is protected. And in fact, at no point of time your user's experience is getting disrupted through a DDoS or any such similar attack. Interestingly, what we do, over and above this, because no matter how much of your technology will, of course, you can foresee certain things. There are certain 101 thumb rules that you can do, but still you need to always keep your guards on. You need to always keep your surveillance on. And for that, we take a very proactive approach when it comes to identifying these kind of issues much earlier through data. Now, if I talk about our data practice, it basically is categorized into three steps. The first one is data collection. So we try to capture as much data about a particular device, a particular user as possible. This could be with respect to app level performance, business level KPIs. There is a live click stream that keeps on feeding into our data systems. Now, these streams and these feeds actually feed into our algorithms. These are some of the ML algorithms. And when I say some, it'll probably be hundreds of different algorithms across different parts of the feature, different product units that basically ensure that whatever feed of data is coming in, whatever inputs that are coming in, are actually within the guardrails of normal behavior. The moment there is any deviance, any exception case, which we feel can be a threat to the health of the business, there are instant alertings, and those real-time alertings can be, can be all the way from an alert to a feature owner, to an alert to the entire company, to also leading to blocking that particular user or an immediate basis to, let's say, stopping withdrawals and stopping that particular feature altogether. So there are different levels of alerts, and all of this is fairly automated. One of the things and challenges and why automation is super critical for us is because we are a 24/7 business, right? Unlike offline businesses, or unlike businesses which are very day centric, I would say, in our case, it's a 24/7, 365-day business. In fact, majority of our traction happens, when, at night, late in the night time or over the weekends. So it is super critical for us to put enough business logics to ensure that everything that we feel is abnormal gets tapped in, gets notified, and in fact, the action also in most cases is automated as far as possible. So these are the three key, I would say, verticals in which we spend a lot of time. And when I talk a lot about, I think building games or, getting successful, getting traffic is much easier. The harder part is to ensure that you are able to continue to provide a great gameplay, a safe place, fair gameplay uh, to millions of people, right? And I think that's what is keeping us busy. Uh, with that, we will sort of sum it up. I have a bunch of recommendations, and these are recommendations only basis our personal experience of running WinZo. I'm sure different industries and different product owners will work very differently, but for budding entrepreneurs, developers, these are some of the things that we would like to share. Clearly, there is no right or wrong. There is no solve it all. It's a cat and mouse game. Today, we have, of course, after spending so much time and building so many checks on all fronts, we still feel that we'll probably 99% secure so far. There can always be that unknown where you need to keep on solving for that. And this is an evolving space, right? So there could probably be new age solutions, new age different types of applications that can disrupt one or multiple gameplay activities, can disrupt your overall application. And there'll be these bad apples who will always keep hunting these kind of applications, right? So it's important for us to be on top of this. That's why it's a cat and mouse game. But what's really important is you need to put enough importance to this. You don't need to think that this is something that we'll figure it out later. Because to be very honest, the cost of these kind of breaches also grows exponentially, right? And it can also not just cause you financial damage, but it can also cause you reputational damage, which is, I think, far more critical. So it's always important to start early. It is important to capture enough data in the beginning so that your algorithms, your models are in place. We need to also, in the beginning, in case of the paucity of bandwidth, or just generally as well, I think it's totally okay to seek help from third-party companies that can probably do your security audits, that can do your stress testing, that can do, that are basically experts, right? You find out your discrepancy, you find out your weaknesses, and you plug those tools, right? That will actually be a much more proactive approach than always being reactive in nature. And you need to put a center of excellence within the organization. There should be a certain set of people whose responsibility should be to only take care of security and any and every kind of a, let's say, a breach or a weakness or something, vulnerability, as they say. That should always be something that will deliver. My response to the founders will deliver 100x more return than any of your business as usual initiatives would, and will always help you minimize your losses. And of course, at the end of the day, there should be enough, at a very, very overarching level, at a business level, there should be enough checks and balances in place where if anything hits the roof, even if, let's say, something totally unforeseen happens, even in that case, there is that protection out there, or what you call a safety net, beyond which your losses are totally minimized. So those kind of safety nets should always be there, and should be decided by the founders depending on the kind of business in which they are, depending on the kind of patterns that they observe in their product. So with that, I will conclude this discussion, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me. And if there are any further points, feedbacks, or anything else, any thoughts at all that you would like to share with me, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or anywhere else at all. Thank you so much.